Shari Franke released her book, The House of My Mother, describing her horrendous upbringing and the YouTube channel House 8 Passengers at the hands of her mother, Ruby. We're going to talk about some of the bizarre and shocking things that are coming out of it in today's video. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Psh, sofa's there. Psh, I'm here. Psh, boys are tip-tapping around the room. You'll probably hear them. My name's Paul if you're new to the channel. If you're not new to the channel, my name still is Paul. Today we're going to be looking at an interview on Good Morning America between Shari Franke and Good Morning America. Shari Franke is the daughter of Ruby Franke. Ruby Franke is currently incarcerated after being convicted of some pretty severe, serious charges. Now, Shari Franke recently released her memoir, The House of My Mother. We're currently reading it for our members book club, and it's just, I can't put it down. Well, I'm doing an audible version of it, and I cannot put it down. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at, well, we're going to do an overview for people who are not familiar with this of the case, and then we're going to look at that interview and kind of use that as a platform or whatever, a jumping pad to talk about some of the things. I have not currently finished the book at this time, but even the little bit that she talks about in this Good Morning American video interview, I'm just like, oh my God, it's what we thought, right? So let's go ahead and get into that overview. So Ruby Franke was a very popular YouTuber. Now her channel 8 Passengers clearly is now defunct. It's no longer, there anymore, whatever. But it's focused on her life as a mother of 6. She had a husband, his name's Kevin. And over time, viewers started to be kind of like, this behavior is not checking out with this, right? She was doing very controversial disciplinary methods like withholding food and like other basic necessities from the kids and amongst other things and just her behavior in general. Now, eventually Ruby would partner with Jodi Hildebrandt. Jodi Hildebrandt is a mental health counselor, major air quotes on that. She was also the founders of the Connections Classroom. Now, this was a counseling organization that promoted like very strict adherence to what they call truth, accountability. The program was criticized for its extreme, rigid approach to family dynamics. They would blame kids for familial issues as well as husbands. Now, Ruby and Jodi would collaborate together on many workshops and whatnot that people would eventually be like, these are promoting like a major abusive parental tactics. Like, this is not cool. Now, fast forward to August 2023, they are arrested. And why are they arrested? Because one of Ruby's children escapes Jodi's house and goes to the neighbors. The neighbor calls 911. The child is emaciated. The child has ligature marks on them. They are bound with duct tape. They're asking for food and water. It's a very horrible scene. The neighbor's crying on 911. Even one of the first responders starts crying. The condition of these children, I don't know how they're alive, okay? It was that bad. Now, clearly this leads to an investigation and arrest, and then clearly that leads to a court date. They are eventually sentenced. They are currently incarcerated in prison, and essentially it's like a minimum of 4 years. So we're kind of waiting to see what the charges are going to actually bring as far as jail time. If you ask me, they don't need to ever step foot outside again. I'm not sure how you can come away from this. So that's the overview. Now, Shari Franke, this is her daughter. She released a book, and the book is centering on the experience of living with Ruby Franke, but also from the start of, hey, we're going to try this thing called YouTube, to where it ended up and what it's like to basically be a child, exploited by a parent for views and money and whatnot. So let's go to this interview with Good Morning America that she did and look at it. Now, the first thing they're going to do is a couple of clips and whatnot from the 8 Passengers channel. Let's look at that as well, because I want you to just really focus on what Ruby's energy is like. Let's look at it.
She was the Utah mommy influencer known for her no-nonsense parenting.
I'm only going to say it one more time, and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat dinner.
Ruby Franke sharing her life at home with 6 children to her more than 2 million followers on YouTube.
Today we are starting off our day the way we do every day.
Now, one of the things here in reading the first part of her book that I did is we're hearing about this basic obsession from Ruby about documenting every bit of their life. To me personally, when I look at Ruby on video and camera now, to me her eyes say it all. It's like there's no soul there, right? It's like this evilness. Like, she is so impressed with herself. It just so like, I'm doing the world a favor, okay? So let's get into that interview now.
Sometimes I'll like see myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I look like her or I sound like her, but I don't want to be anything like her.
Shari, who says she was cut off from the family when she left for college, detailing abuse she says her mother inflicted throughout her childhood.
When I was younger, around like 5, 6, like Ruby was really physical. Like, you know, whether it was like a slap to the lip or a slap to the cheek. When I would practice the piano, you know, like her hand would slam and like it was really scary. And honestly, when she met Jodi, that kind of stopped.
Now, this is the sad part. So, like, reading the book and whatnot, where Shari talks about, yeah, as soon as you could, like, stand up and walk around, you had, like, a cleaning rag in your hand. You were expected to make your food, find your way to school. These very bizarre things that teeter on the line of, obviously, abuse and whatnot. But also, you know, listening to her talk about, imagine, like, you're sitting there being taught, like, piano through violence, right? I mean, you know, we hear about these things come up, but these have long-term ramifications. It's also interesting that she talks about with Jodi, which we're going to have major T on her as well, where it's like, well, some of that abuse and whatnot kind of stopped, but it turned more darker psychologically, she'll say. And if you follow this case, then that will make perfect sense to you, right? Because Jodi brings a certain level of sinister, dark evil to this. It was like her and Ruby almost like complemented each other in a dark forces way, but at the end of the day, they absolutely deserved each other's miserableness.
Could you feel the shift when Jodi came into your family's life?
I could for sure. I could feel the shift. I was like, oh, Jodi, like, you know, I don't like her, but maybe this is one good thing that's come from it, is she's not yelling, she's not hitting us anymore. But it did become more psychological, and in a way that was more damaging to me.
You see, I think from what I've learned of the case and whatnot, and I haven't really gotten deep into the part of the book so far where she's talking about the Jodi part, which is the case in general, Jodi to me seems like she enjoys literally getting inside people's heads and relationships and making them as miserable as possible. I mean, the evidence that was brought forth of the things she was doing to kids as well as husbands, and then as well as the wives as well. But as we'll learn here, I think that we're confirmed that, yeah, Jodi was after the women in this scenario, but the way she went after it and whatnot to try and gain control is like a next level of evil.
In 2022, Hildebrandt moved into the Franke home. The children's father, Kevin, moved out shortly after.
I certainly got weird vibes from Jodi and Ruby. I don't think it's normal at all that a therapist would move into her client's home. I was moving out to college and I hadn't even like left the house yet, and she is in my room and in my bed.
What was that relationship between the two of them?
Ruby tried to be secretive about it, and so like I don't know all the details, but just the vibes that I was getting was that something was strange between them.
Ooh, yeah. So again, if you follow this for a while or follow me with it, everyone speculated that there was something going on between Jodi and Ruby, that this couldn't just be what it was presented as these two. Like there was something way more. Well, clearly, you know. I mean, again, Jodi moves in, Kevin moves out. The things that Jodi put just this family through, but many men have spoken out about the abuse that Jodi put them through and the absolute psychological abuse that she would do. She ran men's group. She forced these men to come to the group. The whole time, I think she was grooming the wives.
In the book, Shari writing about messages between the two she says she found on Ruby's laptop after their arrest. That confirmed for me the truth about the nature of her relationship with Jodi and how it had spilled over into the physical. Ruby expressing her frustration about having to cater to Jodi's needs for physical affection without getting anything in return.
Okay, this part right here, y'all. First of all, you know that Shari probably knows way more than she's telling, like, and that the authorities and these people probably saw way more than they put out there. But also, does it surprise any of us? Like, number one, not a surprise that they were in a relationship. But number two, does it surprise any of us that Jodi was a selfish lover on top of it? Of course not, right? She would suck the energy out of anything and everybody around her. This is just par for the course. Let's keep going.
They romantically involved with each other?
I never saw anything specific about that.
Do you think they were more than friends?
I'm not sure.
Now, this is the part here where I was saying where she's like, I didn't see anything. Now, I have no doubt that they probably hid it from people, but I get this vibe from Shari. Either she's like, well, read the book and you'll find out, or she's not going to put that out there because she probably found some pretty salacious stuff. I mean, you just already know. Like, ugh. And again, on top of it, where everyone was talking about, like, Kevin talked about how unclean Jodi was. And other families did too. That one family that Jodi stayed with, they kicked her out of the house eventually. I mean, they were all like, yeah, it was like literally the spawn of Satan living with us. Like, she didn't bathe, she didn't do this, like it was bad. And again, I just think it was all this front of trying, not completely all this, but a huge part of it was trying to get to these women. I think she wanted women and she didn't know what to do with that.
Do you believe that she was apologetic?
I think that she's as sorry as she can be. What she has done is so bad that I don't think her mind allows her to kind of fully comprehend the guilt of all that. And so I think that she probably genuinely believed everything she said. I don't believe it, though.
And here's the thing. I completely agree with her. I mean, obviously, it's her daughter, right? She would know best. But Ruby, to me, strikes me as one of these people like Lori Vallow, Sarah Boone. They believe themselves. So it's like, yeah, this is probably as sorry as Ruby can get. Because if you watch the court closing and whatnot, or the court, you know, her apology, if you will, it was more like an acceptance speech, and it didn't seem sincere at all. It seemed better than Jodi's, who Jodi didn't seem to really care. You know, it's just like, oh, I guess I did something wrong. Ruby knew how to manipulate. She knew how to say the right things for the court. Nonetheless, I think the court probably will see right through it. I pray they do with the official sentence and whatnot. But I think that this is just dead on. Like, she is as sorry as she's capable of being, and she probably believes everything she says. So even though we can see differently, I just think that Ruby is completely gone. And if you also go back to that, remember, Ruby completely blamed Jodi for this scenario. Now, she pretended to take some accountability, but for the most part, this was Jodi's fault, and there's that.
Is there anything that you would say to Ruby if you had the chance?
Probably tell her I'm happy without you. Like, I was scared of her for so long, and I am pure without her approval, and I am just fine.
Have you forgiven Ruby?
Forgiveness is something I've had to study a lot and kind of think about what it means. But for me, forgiveness would look like not letting that consume every moment of my life and all of my thoughts. I am just trying to move on with my life and trust that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to.
I think it's amazing that Shari wrote this book and is speaking her truth. Number one, I hope it goes to a #1 bestseller and she makes tons of money and she can go live anonymously and have a quiet life. The life that she has described in here, like she said, she feared Ruby her whole life. And, you know, the act of forgiveness is such a unique thing and it means so many different things. And I like that she defined her definition of that, which was, you know what, I'm not going to let you, meaning Ruby, define the rest of my life, because she defined a huge pivotal point in this young lady's life, childhood, right? And I mean, look at her brothers and sisters and whatnot. So that part I think is amazing. I resonated with several parts of her story, just looking at some certain things that I've lived through myself. And I was like, you know what, this is why it's so important for people to tell their stories. Not that people have to, but it helps so many people to connect, because like with the things that she was talking about, I was like, oh wow, okay, you know, I connected with this. Imagine how many people are living the life that Shari had to, that they're currently stuck in it, right? You know, and that can translate to many different segments of life and whatnot. And I just love that, you know, I'm happy without you. It's sad that that is her parent, that she feels that way, but it is what it is. You know, many people can relate to that. So definitely, yeah, the book, it is so good, okay? It is an insight into what it's like to grow up in a YouTube house as a child. It's an insight into the abuse. It's an insight into the psychological manipulation, all those things. And, you know, I'm like only in part 1. Okay. So if you followed this case, you're going to want to listen to it. I'm listening to Audible and Shari narrates it, which I love that, right? So that's it. Let me know what you think. Again, we're doing it in the book club for the channel. If you're a member of the channel or a Patreon already, you're automatically in it. Just look in that little section there. And I just post little videos and talk about it as we go. And then we have a live chat and talk about it. And so that's it. But let me know what you think so far. Please drop it down in the comment section. And while you are down in the comment section, drop some little sofas off for Luke, who's like, what's that noise, Dad? Rosco and Spirit, and the other boys running around out there. You can see he's getting all wily. He's like, I want to go play now. I do appreciate it. And until we meander down into that comment section to hang out, we'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco Rosco on the Instagram. Go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.